Hey Treble! So today I'll be talking about how to sharpen a chainsaw, because it's just not as much fun using a dull saw. So let's look at the chain, how it's put together, what you can look for, and then I'll try to give you a couple of tips on chainsaw sharpening. So let's take a look at the chain. And I went ahead and I got a bigger chain just because it's completely impossible to see anything when it's shown on the actual chain from the chainsaw. It's like teeny tiny things and you're trying to show like it's this up here, can you see it? No. Yeah, so I got this so that I can hopefully show you in a way that you can actually see what I'm doing. Alright, so let's get to it. So of course you need to know how the chain is built, just because this video is about the chain. So we've got the drive link, that's little thingy here. And then we've got the tie strap, that's the one here. And another drive link. And then we've got our left and right hand cutters. And of course that's depending on the way they are pointing, if they are left or right. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. But yeah, drive link, tie strap, and left and right hand cutter. Okay, so that's how the chain is built. And then if we look at just one tooth, you've got your top plate up here and your side plate down here. So this edge right here, the one with the pointy end, well, both of them have pointy ends, but this edge right here, that is your top plate cutting edge. So the top plate cutting edge is the one up here, the sharp one, and then going down here, this is your side plate cutting edge. And we want both of those to be sharp because one is taking away the wood chips and the other one, well, one is like lifting the wood chips and the other one is kind of cutting it away. So you need both of those to be really, really sharp. Then there is a lot of information to be found on your chain. We've got the little indicator here showing you when it's time to get a new chain. So you can file it all the way down to this mark right here. Look at that mark. And it's the same on this side. You should reach those at the same time if you file correctly. So you've got your indicator on the side and you've got the indicator on the top plate. And in front here, we've got the depth gauge, or rakers, some call them. That's a really important thing to pay attention to as well, but I'll get back to that. So when sharpening a chainsaw, it's crucial that you find a round file that suits your chain's pitch. And if you're uncertain about the pitch, what you can do is look at the number right here on your raker, on your depth gauge. So this code digit refers to a table that will show you the different chain pitch. And then you can see if it's 1/4 of an inch, if it's 0.325 inch, or what kind of pitch it is. So that's really helpful. If you're in doubt in any way, just go ahead and check that because you really do want the correct file. Something else I really recommend is that you keep the box from the chain, because here you have all the information that you need. You've got your chain pitch, that's the one right here, your drive link thickness, amount of drive links, size of bar. Then the important thing for you right now is the diameter of the round file. You need a 5.2 for this chain, and then you need to file it at a 30-degree angle. So those are actually the only two things that you really need to pay attention to here. For this particular chain, it's a 5.2 file and it's 30-degree angle. So keep that. You can put in here, this is for the 500i, and then you know when you're filing this saw that this is what you need for it. So let's look at the actual filing. As I said, there is the indicator on the top of your filing plate that indicates how much tooth needs to be left when filing, but it also shows you the angle. It's really important that you file in the correct angle, and I think most steel chains, if not all of them, are filed at a 30-degree angle, and that is this angle right here I'm talking about. So I only use steel chains, and therefore I only need to remember the 30-degree angle. So that's what I do. Then you also need to make sure that you are holding your file at a right angle, so that you're not filing like this, up or down in any way. You want it to be at a right angle in here. Don't know if you can see it. Can you see my right angle? This is a right angle. All right. So you want it to be at the 30-degree angle and then a right angle on the other angle. Like that. So one thing you should remember is that the file only sharpens at a forward motion. So no dragging. That doesn't help. It just hurts. And the files are always made in a way so you don't have to turn them when you're using it. But it's a good idea between strokes to just turn a little bit so you don't end up having one-sided wear on your file. So what I do when I'm filing, it's easy for me to show you with my chainsaw, is this. Like I do a stroke and then I twist it, maybe on the way back, then one more stroke, and then I just kind of like twist it in my hand as I'm using it, so that I don't end up having a one-sided wear just like over here. That's just something to pay attention to. You don't want it, you do want a nice file too, right? You also want to make sure that you're holding the file so that 1/4 of the file's diameter projects above the top plate. And that is, I don't know if you can see it here, but like kind of like that. Because you want to make sure that you are filing this edge, that edge, but you don't want to be filing down here, and you don't want to file too high. I did another video about filing don'ts, and you can watch that to see what happens if you're filing too deep or too high or using the wrong file. But just to do a quick run through, if you're filing too high, you'll end up removing the kind of hook up here. And if that's gone, you also remove the safety feature, because that hook is supposed to grab the fibers in your chainsaw pants to pull those out if you hit yourself. And that doesn't really help if there's no hook. So that's just one thing that's really bad about it, and nobody likes to use a saw without this hook because it sucks. Another thing is, if you file too deep, then this hook will be really big. It'll be like a cap shadow kind of thing, and then that will be a really aggressive saw, but it will get dull really quickly. So just use the correct file, because that really gives you the best sharpening results. Alrighty. And then if we're looking at the sharpening with a chainsaw, I would of course always put it in a, don't even know what that's called, but like keeping it fastened so that it doesn't move around. But this is just to show you everything that I do. First thing, of course, chain brake off. And then what you want to do is make sure that your chain is a bit tighter than it is when you're using it, because you don't want the angles to be wrong in any way because the chain is moving. I tighten the chain a bit more just to prevent the cutters from moving, and in that way giving me a wrong angle. It will keep the angle the same way all the time, and that's what I want when I'm filing. Then what I do is I use a magnetic filing plate. I know a lot of you are asking about this when I'm posting photos and videos on Instagram. This is a magnetic filing plate. You can find it on Google. Google it! No, it's a really good tool. I like it a lot. It's of course magnetic. It will show me, it has angles on it. I don't know if you can see it, but it says 30 up here, so that's the 30-degree angles, and on the other side it's 25. And I really like this plate because I can just put it on and make sure it's at the right angle for my guide bar, like that. And then I've got my angles up here. It's nice and easy to see, and then I can just follow that angle when I'm filing. So that's pretty neat. If you want a smooth and nice cut, you want to be filing at the correct angle, the same angle on all of the cutters. So make sure that you're doing that in any way that's good for you. I like that magnetic filing plate. Some like to use, some like to use a file like this. This will show me the angles while I'm filing, and I can just keep my eye on that line up here, so that angle is right all the time. But there are a lot of different things you can do. There's also the 2-in-1 file that has the angles here. So that's the one you'll be looking at. You want that going into the bar like that. So as I said, a lot of different options. I do believe in always using some sort of tools to help you find that correct angle, because it's so crucial for your sharpening. And I know that there is this little tiny line on top of the cutter, but really nobody can follow that line correctly. So just use something else that actually helps you instead of filing it the wrong way. No shame in using tools like that. Bigger shame in filing incorrectly, I think. Alright, so let's take it back a bit. What I do when I'm sharpening chainsaws is I tighten the chain a bit, and then what I do is I look through at the entire chain to find my master cutter, and that will be the shortest cutter of them all. Or if I hit something with one, that will be the one that I am sharpening after. So that will be my master cutter. What I do is I take a felt tip pen, and then I just paint it black so I know where I started. I do love sharpening chainsaws, but sometimes when you've been doing it a lot and it's the bigger bars, they can feel like it's endless, and you feel like I've been through this chain 5 times now. Then it's nice to know that when you see that little black or red spot, then you're actually through the chain. Because sometimes I need to go like this. Where is it? Oh, okay, there it is, and then go back. I think that's a really, really good way to start sharpening, because then you know where to begin and end. Alright, so I've got that on. Then I put my filing plate on, and then I'm good to go. And then it's just slow or nice, smooth movements. Holding the file with my right hand and then just guiding it with my left. And you don't need to press. It's not a competition of how much can you get off the cutter. Just do it in a soft way. And then what you want to do is to maybe go 3-4 strokes on each cutter. It's really important that you do the same amount on each cutter, because you want them to be the same length. What I would do is I would take the first one, maybe do 3-4 strokes, check if it's sharp, and then I would move on to the next, and then just keep counting on every cutter, because then you make the same amount of strokes, and hopefully they will also be the same length when you're done. Then when you're done, you're all the way through, it's nice and sharp. You have to take a look at your depth gauge or rakers. That is crucial too, because if you don't file those down with your cutter, then your chain kind of doesn't work. What I do is I use this filing gauge and just place that on the tooth or the cutter I just did. And then, this is hard to see, but if my raker or my depth gauge is higher than this plate here, then I can file it. So I can take a bit off. What you want to do is make sure that it's always a little bit lower than the cutter, and that is because that decides how much you take off when you're cutting. If you take off too much of your rakers, you'll get a really aggressive saw, but it's also harder to control, so it might kick back more. And if you don't take enough off, then it's kind of just dust that you're making. Then you're kind of just making dust with your chainsaw, and that's really annoying. So you want to make sure it's the correct depth. And for that, this filing gauge is really, really nice. So I place that on there, and then I can feel or see if I need to take any off my raker. It's really a personal matter how much you like to take off. I like to do this, and then when I'm done, I take one more stroke on each of my rakers, and that's because I do like my saw to be a bit more aggressive, but you should only do that if that suits your way of using the saw, because yeah, it does mean that it can kick back a bit more if you're not used to working with the saw like that. So just do whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you, it's fine. But it's so important that you do it, and also really, really important that they are at the same length as well. Because if not, you will have a saw that cuts like this, and nobody likes that. So important thing, do your depth gauges as well. And some saws have hump drive links. On those, you use your flat file and file both the raker or depth gauge and the humped drive link. So you just take both of them. Yeah. Just really important, because you might be looking at it like, what am I doing with this? Just file them both. And of course, when you're done with one side, what you do is just flip your saw over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Place your whatever you want to do, or use this, or use your 2-in-1. If you're using the 2-in-1 file, you do not need to do the depth gauges afterwards, because this file takes both the depth gauge and your cutter at the same time. Files both of them at the same time. So that's a really nifty tool. You can do two things at once and save you a lot of time. And then you're done. Nice and sharp chain. What you can do is to check that you're doing it correctly, that you're sharpening correctly, is look at the edge here, look into the cutter, and then you want everything to be kind of like a light, even color. If you see any dark edges, that means that the saw is still not sharp, and you need to go back in and do it again. What you can do if you want to just check if you're doing it correctly before you do the entire saw, you can color this part right here. So go in and color this with a fill tip pen, and then do 2-3 strokes, and then go ahead and look in and see if your filing is even, if the color is taken off at an even manner, or if you've got a lot of coloring in the top, then that means that you're filing too deep. Or if you've got a lot of color in the bottom, that means that you're filing too high. So that's a great way if you're new to the field, or if you just don't know why the saw isn't getting as sharp as you'd like it to. You can go in and do that, and then just see where your flaws are. If the color is taken off at a nice and even way, then you're good to go. Go ahead and sharpen the entire saw, and you'll have a nice and sharp saw to work with. And then when I'm done sharpening the entire saw, I'll go back in and untighten my chain. And as I'm working with the saw, I'll go back in and tighten it again if it gets loose, because I don't want it too loose and falling off, and I don't want it too tight and ruining my saw. So it's kind of a balance, but that's what I do. So I will untighten this and make sure that it's ready to go when I need it. So I hope this video helped you find out how to sharpen your saw, or what to look for at least. If you'd like me to try to explain anything in another way, just leave a comment and I'll try to explain it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, and also you can find me on Instagram at Femalelumberjack, because then you know where to start and begin. And that's the same word. Then you know. So a crucial thing when you're filing is to use the correct right. It refers to a table that will show you the different chainsaw pitches. pitch. So I would start off by, and now I forgot my tools again. And then what? And if you don't have your shit under control, you can of course use other things. That's the beauty of chainsaws.